I view another word that you never hear when you're talking about success, and that's momentum. Some people, and you have to know about yourself. You have to know about momentum. Some people have a great momentum. It's even like me on the campaign trail. I took off 3 or 4 days, which is a lot because I've been going for months without any. A lot of people say, unlike Jeb, you have very high energy, right? It's true. But you take 3 or 4 days off, and that first day or two back, it's like, you got to get going. You got to get going. It's almost like don't take any time off. Vacation. If you want vacations, you're not really in the right business. I hardly ever take time off because I love what I'm doing, whether it's my business or whether it's now this. We're going to make America great again. And whether it's this, no matter what. But the word momentum is a very important word, and you have to understand it. And you have to understand how to think about momentum. And it's a word you never hear when you hear about success, but it's so important. And what happens is there was a man named William Levitt, and I had great respect for him. He was a great real estate person. And he was a young man, and he built Levitt towns. Has anyone ever heard of Levitt towns? Well, Levitt towns were these massive housing developments, largely in Long Island, Pennsylvania, different places, but massive. He was really the first of the massive builders of homes. And he was a young man. He did unbelievably, became very, very rich, and everything he touched turned to gold, and it was incredible. And then what happened is he was offered a lot of money by Gulf and Western. It was a big conglomerate to buy his company. And you have to understand, William Levitt used to go around looking for nails, looking for sawdust. He'd sell the sawdust. He'd save the nails and use them again. He'd save chips of wood and use them for different things. Everything was perfect. He knew how to get zoning. He'd have lunch with the mayor. He'd have lunch with the council. He'd have dinner with everybody. He was the ultimate professional real estate developer, and he built Levitt towns. Remember, he was the first really large-scale housing sprawl all over the country. Actually, they went all over the world. So Gulf and Western came to him, and they offered him a lot of money, more money than he ever thought possible. And he took it, and he said, oh boy, this is great. He then retired at a very young age, very, very young. But he was going crazy. He was so bored. He was going absolutely crazy, but they had a restrictive covenant. He couldn't compete. He couldn't do what he knew best, which was building housing. And so he was retired. He moved to the south of France. He bought a magnificent yacht. Unfortunately, he got divorced, and he did a trophy wife thing, and, one of those things. And terrible person to do that. But he did it. But he had a wife who was a good wife, La Belle. And he named the boat after her, the yacht. And he was riding high. Everything was good. Now he's getting a little older. He's still in retirement, lost his momentum, remember the word. And Gulf and Western comes back, and they're dying. This is a big company, but they're dying because they don't send people to pick up nails. They don't send people to sell the sawdust. They don't send people to take the little scraps of lumber and bring them down and sell them and get very small amounts of money, but it all adds up. And they're losing their shirt with this company they bought. They couldn't get zoning because they don't take the mayor out to dinner, and they don't do the things that you have to do. And they couldn't get zoning. They had all this land. They went crazy with buying land, and they couldn't sell the company because it was a mess, and they destroyed the company. And they went to William Levitt, and they said, we'd love to sell you the company back. And he said, I think it was about 12 years. He was out, lost that whatever it is. And after 12 years, they came to him, they said, we'd love to sell you the company back. Would you have any interest? Yes, I would. I'd love to buy it back. So he bought this big company back, bigger than what he sold. He had all this land that was unzoned and all. And he worked like crazy. He worked 24 hours a day. Work. And he went bankrupt, out of business, totally bankrupt. The biggest, he went bankrupt. And by this time, he was an old guy. And I was at a party, and I was the new hot guy in New York. I was doing great with real estate, and I was on the covers of Business Week magazine and Fortune magazine. I was doing really well. And there was a man named Steve Ross that a lot of you folks would know from Warner Communications. And he was the hot guy in entertainment. He built Time Warner, and he was a great guy. Passed away from cancer, unfortunately, but he was an amazing guy, one of the great people in the history of the entertainment business. And he was giving a cocktail party. He had 50 people on his Fifth Avenue apartment. And I walk into the apartment. I was invited. And I see 50 people. and most of them are in the entertainment business. And I saw one person, pretty old guy, and he was sitting in the corner, and his name was William Levitt. And I went over to him because I was attracted to him because he was in my business. I didn't care about the entertainment people. I cared about him. And I said, Mr. Levitt, how are you doing? Donald Trump. He said, yes, I know. He said, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well at all. I said, I read that, and it's too bad. What went wrong? And I'll never forget the expression of the statement. He said, Donald, I totally lost my momentum. So the thing you probably never heard. He lost his momentum. He took that time off, he came back, and it was a different world, and he lost his momentum. Now, the real lesson there is you have to know if you've lost your momentum so that you don't get hurt. And it's just something that I talk about because it's so different. And I watched him sitting in this corner. I don't even know why he was there, because he was no longer successful. But I guess Steve knew him and respected him for what he had accomplished, because what he had accomplished was amazing. He was the forerunner to so many massive developments that you see all over. But he said, I lost my momentum, Donald. I lost my momentum. I've never, ever forgotten those words. And I've always remembered them. And what you want to do is you want to keep going, keep going, keep going. But if you think you lost your momentum, slow down and refocus on maybe something else, because it's so important to keep the momentum going.